3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days is a gestation cycle, and then she has her piglets and she comes back. And so it's, within a year, we can reduce these abnormal behaviors. And that was really surprising because I thought, we were going to have them for years and years to try but we made an impact, and I was very happily surprised.
Well, welcome to Clear Conversations. We're thrilled you could be here with us today. We are once again at the Beef Barn here at UC Davis, and joining us today is Kristina Horback, otherwise known as Tina. I can call you Tina.
Yes.
Yes, okay. She is an associate professor in the Department of Animal Science at UC Davis, and your research investigates whether species-specific personality traits influence how an animal not only copes with stress, but also the animal expresses its internal state, such as fear or maybe pleasure, and in order to enhance animal-based measurements of welfare. So that sounds like a lot, and it is, and we'll get into all of it. But first of all, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about cognition research in animals. How do you describe it to people, first of all?
Yeah, animal cognition is, the word cognition itself is really kind of a special one where you kind of have an idea of what it is, but it's hard to describe. So with animal cognition, we comparative psychologists, we study the way an animal can bring in information from their environment, so like sight, sound, smells, how they process that information in their brain, and how they can learn from that information, and sometimes even memorize that information to use it again. So it's all about information processing. That's what animal cognition is. And each species is different. And bringing in smells is more important, or visual information, having really great spatial memory, or having really good trial and error learning and stuff. And so that's what animal cognition is.
That's a good point. Every species learns differently, so that means there's a lot of research for you to do.
Yes.
So is this a new field, or, how much do we know about how animals process information, take in information and process it? Do we know a lot, or is this something we're continuing to learn about?
Well, there were elements of animal cognition way back in the early days of ethology, or animal behavior. We have people studying how animals respond to a certain stimulus always, every time, and how we weren't aware of at the time that was conditioning. So like Conrad Lorenz, or we have a Henry Turner studying bee communication way before we knew what that was. But then it sort of became its own discipline later on, where we have some real focus work, a lot with apes and primates communication. Either it's what Jane Goodall described in the field about information flow among the animals. A lot of stuff with B.F. Skinner and just learning, basic behaviorism of how rats, pigeons can learn operant panel and understand a stimulus, a response, and a consequence. And then animal cognition itself really blossomed, and we later getting on to the 70s, 80s, and 90s of studying animals for their own sake, rather than to understand theories of learning or what have you, but trying to understand how do the bees communicate, or how is the dog learning these cues, and that type of thing.
Because we all want to know that. Why is my dog looking at me like that? Why is my cat just staring at me? We want to know what they're thinking.
Yes.
And so that's why this is so interesting. I always pick Tina's brain about things because you know so much, and the research that you're doing is so fascinating to me. How do you come up with the experiments? Because with animals, you can't ask them, how are you feeling? What are you feeling now? They can't, I guess you could ask them, but they're not going to answer you. So how do you come up with the experiments you do in your research?
Yeah, so I would love to talk to my animals. That's kind of probably why I started animal cognition. As a kid, I wanted to just talk to my animals. But instead, it's a lot of inference. Our best educated guess, a lot of it is what we know about humans, how we can infer what's going on in their brains. So either it's people we try not to have any sort of conversation with, or even infant research, and we go forward from there. But learning, so the definition of learning is a change in behavior from experience. So when we see an animal change their behavior after the experience we give them, so it could be a interactive aversive consequence or a pleasurable consequence, what have you, and then they change their behavior, we say, they learned. And so when we ask questions of animals, when we want to know what's going on in their minds, we focus on what's the best sensory system for this species. Okay, so now what could we expect them to change in their behavior based on what we're showing them, or what we're giving them or taking away from them.
Right. Well, you mentioned it there, but why did you want to get into this research? What was kind of the part of you that you're like, this is what I meant to do, this is what I should be doing, and I want to know more?
Well, I knew I didn't want to be a veterinarian.
Oh, okay.
But I was one of the many people who love animals. And I was also a sci-fi nerd.
Oh, okay.
And so what's the closest thing to talking to an animal? It's the other animals here and speaking to aliens as well. And so we have this kind of connection where we are so similar. And I never had any sort of belief that humans are special on this planet. We're just one of many other primates, and there's so much more going on around us that we're pretty ignorant of. And so I've always wanted to know more, because it's like the great unknown is right here in front of us. Even the squirrels outside, I could catch myself walking campus and I just stop, like, oh my God, look what it's doing. So I think that's what got me started, is kind of looking around like, don't you see, this is so cool around at everyone, and I wanted to, like, what's going on there?
You want to know more.
Dig further.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. Yeah, because we talked about that before too. You grew up in the Bay Area and you saw the cows up in the hillside and you wondered, why are they up there and why are some down there? And I remember being a kid thinking the same thing, like, why is he not with his buddies up on the top of the hill? Why is he down at the bottom of the hill? Like, what's he doing? And so we'll talk about, because you did some research on that. But first of all, let's talk about the research that is a little bit newer, the sow research. Tell me a little bit about that and what you're doing with that.
Yeah, so we looked at the sort of like the pen environment for the breeding adult females, or sows, and how when they're in groups, they're pregnant, so they sleep a lot, but they do interact with each other, and sometimes they can be aggressive, and that's a big problem for the industry. So our research was trying to find a way to introduce very safe but entertaining toys or enrichment for the sows. So they keep engaged with their environment, they have something to do. Often it was things like chewing rope or rubbing up on a brush. And we wanted to know, would that make a difference to their social interactions? And then the big picture, borrowed from what's been done with mice in the lab, if you give these mammals enrichment in their lives, their information processing or cognition improves. So they kind of have a better overall mental welfare and interaction with other members of their group and their environment. And so that's what we were trying to see. Would it make a difference for sows?
Because then in the big picture of that, you mentioned there, but it does go to animal welfare. So it does, that's kind of what you're doing with the research. It's not just the why or the how. I mean, it's the big picture too of enriching the lives and improving the lives of animals on farms and ranches as well too. That's a big part of what you're trying to do. Was there anything that surprised you in that research? I'm just curious, anything that kind of caught you off guard, or did you kind of expect the results that you found?
Well, one of the behaviors we measured was sham chewing. It's an abnormal repetitive behavior that you don't see in wild or feral pigs, only in those that are in sort of a more intensive housing environment. And that's where a pig chews, and it looks like a ruminant chewing cud over and over and over again, but their mouth is empty. So we were expecting that. We'll see a lot of sham chewing, and then when we give them stuff to do with their mouths, it will go down. And we saw that. It's great. But what surprised us was another abnormal behavior that's not really talked about in the literature is an abnormal amount of drinking water. And that's just, again, something to do with their mouths. So they play with the little water nipple, they drink it. Sometimes they don't even drink it, they just press down on it and like spray it. It's just something interactive. And after we gave them rope to chew and brushes to play with their mouths, that went down significantly. So we're kind of, through very cheap and easy and very safe kind of little kits of improvement, we're really impacting how sows are spending their days and trying to maybe have an impact for any sort of these abnormal repetitive behaviors they do. And in the span of 2 gestation cycles. So it's like 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days is a gestation cycle. And then she has her piglets and she comes back. And so it's, within a year, we can reduce these abnormal behaviors. And that was really surprising, because I thought, we were going to have them for years and years to try and really get them into, like, let's stop this abnormal behavior. Like you would see swaying in an elephant in a zoo. There's a lot of these things that animals pick up. But we made an impact, and I was very happily surprised.
And so your research is gaining a global audience as well, in the sense that you just got back from a conference, that you were the only ones there presenting on sows, which is kind of interesting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, just about a week or so ago or less, we came back from Montreal, Canada, And it was the location of the 33rd annual meeting for the Comparative Cognition Society. So it moves around locations, and it gathers all of the scientists who study animal cognition. Not many of us, but there's a lot of folks doing pigeon work or rat work, a lot of apes, and just a few of the other odds and ends like snakes.
Oh.
We were the only pig people.
Interesting. Okay, wow, okay. Well, there's something for everybody.
Yes.
And so were they interested? What was the reception from folks there about what you were doing, what you were working on?
Yeah, most psychologists do work in a lab, or some go to zoos or sanctuaries. Not many go to farms, and many in the audience were excited, saying, "Oh, I heard pigs are smart," or "Wow, that's a lot bigger than Babe or Charlotte's Web." You know, just really, really surprised because we had videos, and they got excited. But it was also kind of bringing up a lot of like, why don't we do more pig research kind of questions for the society.
Right. You do work with some big animals, because the other research I wanted to talk to you about too was the personality traits in beef cattle and how they relate to the grazing distribution on extensive rangelands. And I've talked to you about this before, but it's super, super interesting. It goes to answer some of those questions of why is there cattle at the top of the hill, and why are there ones at the bottom? And so tell me a little bit about that research.
Yeah, so it did originate from my childhood driving north and south in California and seeing the little black dots in the green hills scattered or clumped together. Yeah. And so because my background is in animal personality specifically, I worked with my PhD student, now a postdoc in North Carolina, Maggie Creamer, and we investigated whether or not this was consistent in the cattle, this where they prefer to graze, or is it just chaos, or do they all follow the same path? So we had GPS collars that we made from scratch, and we followed a herd of cows over 2 summer grazing seasons, and we saw that it's not chaos. They don't all follow the same path, actually. There's a lot going on between those big eyes, and they have preferred style of grazing, with some going at really high elevations by themselves for hours, for days. They're just kind of out there. And then there's a lot that clump together near water sources, don't really do a lot of walking in the day, and they stay that way over many, many months.
And over the
and
years.
over years, yeah.
Interesting, yeah. And you also did one I thought was interesting, the feed test, and then tell me about that again.
Yeah,
that was
so
interesting.
Since we saw, great, there is variation in their grazing, and it's consistent. That is a feature of personality, differences that are consistent over time.
Okay.
Now we developed these tests to see if we could find any indicators of these traits. And we borrowed from the old-timey comparative cognition lab where you put a mouse in a T maze and you see which way does it go, left or right. Well, we did the same thing, but giant-sized for our cows, and we had them, once they left their handling chute, they had a choice to either take a left and return to their herd, or take a right and they get to have access to a yummy molasses mineral supplement. And this was our social feed trade-off. They had to make a choice. And through repeated tests, we would move the bucket further and further and further away. So it would be a breaking point where they would maybe turn and choose the social mates. And we flip-flopped it so it wasn't like a side bias, like there was one cow that loves right no matter what.
Oh, gotcha.
And we found that what really determined if a cow was going to be one that went really high, really far, has so much activity, was that she never picked her social mates. She would always pick the food. Just far more food motivation or far less social motivation. Something was going on there. Whereas those that no matter what, even if we put the molasses right in front of her foot, she'd just like step over it to get back to her herd.
Gotta get to my buddies.
They were the ones that clumped together. They would always stay near water, kind of a little bit more lazy. They weren't as active. And so that was really great. Like, we found some sort of indicator maybe you could use to predict the grazing pattern.
Right, because again, in the big picture, maybe you could, breed for genetics with cattle that like to graze far and wide, if that's what you want. You could maybe indicate that, or you could do that. But also for ranchers with grazing, big picture, what does this say to them, or what does this indicate to them?
I hope that it adds that any sort of selection choices that are happening right now in real time, so beyond like reproductive success or any sort of like potential for great weaning weights or body condition, like these physical traits that we select for, it makes sense. That there's something in a behavioral trait that instead of behavior being something that we focus on when to cull, like, oh, this animal's aggressive or this animal's being too tough or what have you, using behavior as something that's a positive that you select for. And so having a little bit more patience and paying attention to subtle behavior, it could be really beneficial and hopefully have some surprising impacts to both the human-animal interaction and then production.
Right, as well, yeah. And so you've also done research on gray wolves, African painted dogs. What did you do with them? African painted dogs.
Yeah, that's going on right now.
Oh, that is going on.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. Oh.
Well, keeping with the animal personality theme, African painted dogs are a critically endangered species, a carnivore, and similar to the gray wolves here in America, they have a reduction of home range back in Africa, and where they do range, they predate on livestock. So there's a lot of threats. When we have them in captivity, various places around the world, we're having a problem in that when they do finally breed, they kill and or eat their babies.
Oh, that is a problem.
And my PhD student, Francesca Whitehead, who is here from Italy on a Fulbright, we are doing first a survey around the world. We got, it's in the 40s or 50s of zoos internationally volunteering this information of, yeah, we've lost this many animals or that many animals. And no one's done this before. No one's really doing this. Like, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And now the second half, Francesca is out on the road right now, visiting all zoos that she can in America and watching their painted dogs with different food trials, see if we can find any sort of indicators of hyperaggression.
Right.
What would indicate one maybe that is not safe around the pups or when we don't want to breed, that type of thing. So we're looking at aggressive personality type in the endangered African painted dog as it relates to the conservation of the species.
That's really interesting then. Excuse me, on the gray wolves, tell me a little bit about that research, because that's all obviously a huge topic here in California.
Yeah, so my time with the California Cattlemen's Association and talking with beef ranchers, wolves came up a lot. And as controversial as the topic was, it was very understandable how it's a threat for both the welfare and the livelihood of the animals and humans involved. But I have equal interaction with the wildlife biologists who work to conserve the gray wolves and encourage their return to California. So I started a project to try and learn a little bit more about wolves, because what's being pushed for ranchers is to use non-lethal tools to protect their livestock and scare away the wolves in a non-lethal manner. So lights, sounds, flags, what have you. But there's not a lot of information out there on how quickly do the wolves habituate it. Or is that the right color you should be using? Or does that light really matter? That sound? So I started with work with wolves that are in captivity, but they weren't the type of wolves that were raised by humans or trained, because there's a lot of wolves out there that people try to keep illegally as pets and then confiscated and go to zoos. These were wolves that are kept for conservation purposes from the California Wolf Center down in Julian.
Yeah,
And then a pack was moved to Oakland Zoo. So these are family packs that they're not interacting with humans, and they don't, they're not hand fed. They're given a carcass, like once a week, and it's like as close as we can get to the true wild. And we were looking at risk taking or novelty or boldness personality trait in these wolves. And the big story there is that we thought we'd get to figure out which wolf is curious and is that the wolf that problem solves and goes after meat in a human box. Those are the ones that are going to maybe take the risk for getting livestock. But all of the wolves were scared of everything over months and months and months, no matter how much food we put out there. It was only the adult males, the dads of both packs, that took the risks and interacted with our puzzle boxes we made to try and make it a challenge for them to get to yummy rabbits on the inside. But the rest, they're scaredy cats.
Interesting. So they would not follow what the dad did.
They did not
wouldn't-
follow. No,
even
they
though
would
pack mentality.
exactly.
They wouldn't.
No, so it was. It sort of corroborated what the wildlife biologists say, and that wolves are not risk taking. And if they do predate on a calf, they've been pushed to that limit, or there's one that has started that culture within the pack.
Right.
And also that wolves are not coyotes or any other carnivore.
Right.
They have whole different style of hunting, and their rules are very different. But yeah, we were so surprised because the keeper's like, oh, they're hungry. They're really hungry, but
Still wouldn't take
they
that
wouldn't
risk.
anything near a human-made object that we had. We had a variety of objects. Yeah.
So moving forward, what could that mean? I mean, is there a way to tell who the dad is? I mean, okay. So
Yeah.
there could be possibilities for something more to learn from this for ranchers out there, so they have more of a strategy to get them away, to keep them away from their livestock.
Yeah, I think first pass, I hope it's just like empirical evidence that wolves are not bloodthirsty killers that are going to attack you and your kids when you go camping or something like that. And that there is evidence that you need to pause on first grabbing a gun. They are not going to attack humans. That is not it seems to be, it's very limited evidence in the archives of a wolf ever attacking a human. And to really kind of understand the ecology of the environments where there are wolves killing and eating calves and sheep. For sure, that's happening. But we need to understand, okay, what's going on there? What is pushing them to that limit? Because it's not happening everywhere. And I suppose not trying to take an extreme or say a wolf is a wolf is a wolf. Like, oh no, there's a lot going on. And we have this evidence of it. Just start that conversation.
More research to be done too. I remember talking to you about this too, because I was talking about coyotes and wolves and totally different research, but more research needs to be done to kind of fully understand. Tell me about the hens too. Tell me about that research. That's interesting to me too.
Oh, the laying hens. Yeah. So that was another opportunity to use cognition to answer a question. So we have now all cage-free laying hens in California.
Yep.
And they are indoors, cage-free, fly around, hop around, what have you. And they have that species typical roosting up high at night.
Right.
But with this cage-free environment where there's great freedom of movement, they do kind of crash around a bit. Not all of them, but some of them can kind of bonk. And so there's been the question in the poultry industry of, is this because they physically don't have the ability to do it? Or because they're raised from chicks through pullets just on the ground with nothing around them? Do they not have the depth perception? They can't see contrast, and they're actually really poor at gauging how far is that perch, and they miss it. So for my colleagues, Dr. Maya McCagan and Richard Blatchford, we gathered together with them being a focus on poultry management, poultry welfare, keel bone injuries, and me focusing on how do we look at depth perception in laying hens. And so we, again, borrowed from a classic 1960s experiment of a visual cliff, one that was used with infants in the 60s to show at some point if there is a glass countertop with only half of it having a pattern and the other half looks like a cliff. Babies very young will crawl all across it, and then at some age babies stop at the visual cliff, and so their depth perception is picked up. So we did this with the laying hens, and we had some that were raised on the ground, some that were raised with all these fun features to hop up and down and such, or they could just see it, but they couldn't get to it. And we found that, nope, they all can see just fine.
Oh, okay.
It's not their depth perception at all.
Okay.
Their visual system is locked in hard from evolution. It's really the physical ability. We need to give them exercise and practice. Then they'll stop crashing around. But so now we know.
At least now we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a valid question. And again, it's not like you can ask them. Can't give them an eye test. So it's like, what is their eyesight like?
Yes.
Interesting. How much do you love what you do? Like, I can just tell, but I mean, how much do you love what you do here at UC Davis?
Really love it.
Yeah.
I always feel really lucky.
Yeah.
Because I'm just an animal nerd. I came, from Oakland, Alameda, from a city, and didn't really have any experience with farm animals or, a lot of all this contact I'm getting. But I feel really lucky that I get to continue different species, different questions, and students that are really like inspired and enthusiastic to keep me going too.
Which is good.
So,
yeah.
It's great.
And do you think there's kind of a new interest in this type of research too? I was talking to you earlier just about, it seems like there are, just because there's all kinds of different things on Nat Geo, The Secret of Bees, and different things on Netflix where we try to understand the mind of different animals. It seems like we really want to know the why now of how, or why animals think the way they do, or why insects think the way they do, or why snakes think the way they do. It seems like there might be kind of a new interest in this field of research. Am I
Yes. No, I think it's both a cultural change where we've moved on over the last 50 years or so to accept not only do animals feel pain, but now there's more going on. And now with so much access to footage with our cameras, that people are filming phenomenons or that type of thing. And then they're saying like, hey, your cat did this too, my cat did, and then that's kind of expanding the questions and allowing people to ask questions where they thought, oh, maybe this is too anthropomorphic, or oh, it's just an animal. And now you're allowed to talk about the emotions of my dog, or like, how are these chimps communicating and having their civil war? What we see in social media. So I think it is growing more.
Speaking of the mind
of
the
my
cat.
Goodness.
What's she thinking, Kristina? No. Here's a test. What does she think? No. No,
We're in her territory.
That's what she's thinking. She's like, who are these two people?
Yeah.
And where do you see this research going in 5 to 10 to 20 years? Where do you see it going?
I think that there's going to be, as everywhere, a lot more AI in terms of helping to collect video of full body or faces of our different livestock or pets, and then AI helping to code it to sort of like tell the veterinarian this cat is in pain, or there's actually something going on with this dog's knee that in 10 years it'll be lameness from arthritis. Like we have all of these like patterns in the mathematics of all of this movement. And I think that will also go into some areas of understanding the communication, that through using all of this intelligence of AI, it could help us to see the patterns that maybe were limited, and understanding more like how long it took us to understand the waggle dance and round dance and bees. It took us so long as a species, humans, come on. And then we finally figured it out, and it kind of was like, oh, we should have been looking for this the whole time. I think that we'll have help from AI to find the patterns that we can't quite see and how they're communicating.
Yeah, like the intelligence. I think maybe that's too. It's like, oh, bees are really intelligent. Who knew until you take the time to look and research and do that research and that sort of thing. Anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
I think I want to land one more fun fact about pigs.
Love a fun fact.
And it's that pigs they have poor vision. Everything is smell. They identify each other through smell. They've done research where they put earmuffs and a blindfold on a pig, and they put her in a pig pen, and through smell of the other breath of other pigs, she finds her friend. Despite all of that, the pigs that I've worked with, and the sows in particular, they give eye contact to me, to the humans, not to each other. So through our 9,000 odd years of domestication, that they've picked up on how to use us, and how, kind of like they look for patterns in our eye movement to predict where we're going next and what we're going to do. And they're so smart. They're taking it all in. And I think that's really fun, because gaze following, that's what they do. Wherever we look, they're going to look, and they look at us. That's something that's really only looked at in chimpanzees and dogs.
Okay.
But no other species really, and I think there's something there.
Oh, absolutely. Could that be the next research you work on?
I want it to be. Yeah, no one's written about it yet. And I had someone at the conference say, you need to write about that.
You're like, ding, 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 I will write about that. And along those lines, any other misconceptions that you'd like to kind of end with, for folks out there to just think about when it comes to, animals and livestock, and just kind of to think about maybe in terms of cognitively?
Yeah, I have two. First is just back to pigs. They are not dirty. Pigs always have a dunging area separate from their resting spot. And pigs, when they're clean, smell like maple syrup. Take that as you'd like. But the second is that when I hear, oh, pigs are smart, but cows are dumb, right? Or that type of thing. Especially in my animal behavior class with these undergraduates, I make sure they all understand that it's all relative. Like a sheep or a cow is as smart as is necessary to survive throughout the million years of evolution. So like a sheep can't do a waggle dance to communicate to other sheep where the food is. But that's because their food is everywhere. That would be so inefficient.
Right.
Like bees, it makes sense, but not
Right.
for sheep.
Right.
Sheep have other skill sets, like a lot of odorant communication. They have glands between their hooves that they can leave markings in the grass, and they can follow that. You know, there's just so much going on that we don't see. That just, what is that? Don't be judgmental. Be curious about these species. You'll see like, oh wow, actually, there's a lot going on there.
I love that, and I love that as a way to end this podcast too. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
I
me.
can't thank you enough for sharing your knowledge. I could talk to you all day about this because I think it is really interesting, and there's a lot we don't know, which is exciting because there's a lot more research to be done, but it's just really, really fascinating. So I thank you so much for being here and chatting with us today, and I thank you for joining us on Clear Conversations. We hope you will join us again next time.